What's going on, guys? Rise Up Rich podcast. I'm your host, David Haas. Thanks for taking the time to listen today. I think this is a good one today because it seems to be high on everyone's radar right now, is how to become free of judgment. Judgment of other people judging you, you judging yourself, you judging others. So they're all actually interconnected. How do you become free of judging yourself? And I think this is probably the biggest one is we are our own worst critics. So the way that we talk to ourselves, we want to bring awareness to that. So how do you do that? Well, one is just you move into observer mode, which means essentially you just kind of take a step back, and however you want to visualize that. I kind of like visualize like a holographic image of myself just watching me go about my day-to-day life, right? And it's hard to do this. This is like about connecting to the present moment and just observing the body, observing the mind. So it's very hard to do this. So I pick a few moments throughout the day, like in the shower. That's a moment where I'm just constantly in observer mode, just listening to what the mind's saying to me. When I'm running, I take moments to listen to my thoughts. When I get into my car, I drive my car without the radio on, unless I'm listening to a book or a podcast. But usually what I like to do is for the first 5 minutes or so I'm in my car, I'm just sitting and observing my thoughts. So once we start to bring awareness to what we're telling ourselves all the time, we can begin to change it. And actually, just the awareness alone will begin to make the change. That's all we need to do is bring awareness, and having the awareness that we want to become free of judgment of other people, other people's judgment of us, judgment of ourselves. Just having that awareness alone, just by listening to this podcast, a shift is already taking place. So how do you become free of the judgment of other people? And the simple answer is you stop judging others. It's really that simple. If you can just stop judging. And this is something that, you don't have to do a big spiritual deep dive. And yeah, obviously internal judgment is linked to, what you told yourself as a kid, the patterns you took on from your parents, the karmic influences of your parents, is just being born. There is already that built in us. But the one thing about judgment is we can make the shift just with the power of the mind, because the mind has power over the emotions. Okay, so there's 3 ways to stop this judgment. And the first way is we stop the words. Okay, so if we catch ourselves wanting to judge somebody and we're actually saying it out loud, we catch ourselves in the middle of, or after, usually it's after in the beginning, we catch ourselves being, shit, that was judgment, right? So now that we have caught the fact that we're in the state of judgment or that we're judging other people, we just bring that awareness to ourselves and go, oh, okay, well, next time I'm not going to do that. So then maybe the next time we catch ourselves in the middle of actually judging somebody and saying it out loud, we stop it there, right? Then later, what will happen is, this is a step 2, is you'll start just noticing the thoughts of judgment coming up. Okay, so you'll hear yourself in your mind saying, "Oh, like look how ugly that person's outfit is," right? And then before the words come out of our mouth, we stop the words and we just observe the thought. And then the last step is to observe the energy of the thought before it forms an actual thought. Okay, so this one gets a little bit trickier, but as you get more in tune, you could just look at somebody. Let's use a person that we're judging how they're dressed. You could just look at someone. You don't say the words, and before the thought even forms in your mind, you feel the energy of the thought coming up, like that you want to judge them, and you can just stop it right there. Okay, so these are the 3 ways to overcome judging other people. And once you stop judging other people, then you stop judging yourself, and the judgment of other people will become less and less and less. It's because we project onto this world whatever it is that's still going on inside of us, right? The world is acting like a mirror. So whatever we're holding in mind, we're seeing more and more of our life. So if we're in the constant state of judgment, we are going to see judgment all around us. We're going to judge ourselves. We're going to feel the judgment from other people, from our parents, from our friends, whatever it may be. So in order to change that, to shift that, let's just let go of the judgment that's still inside of us, right? So just stopping the judgment, utilizing these 3 things. First the words, then the thoughts, and then the energy. Okay. The next thing, though, is let's talk about the judgment of self and how we can become free of that. And in step one, you are actually just going to become free of your own internal judgment just by stopping judging other people, because you're no longer going to be holding in mind those states of judgment, which will then mean that you are no longer judging yourself. But the other thing that can help you overcome self-judgment is connecting to the innocence of the child. And, essentially, I think I've said this in other podcasts, is essentially just parenting yourself, right? Like, talk to yourself like you would talk to your 5-year-old self, right? So what do I mean by the innocence of the child? So a child is completely innocent. They're a blank slate, right? So if the child pees in its diaper, you don't yell at the child, right? You just be like, oh, no big deal. Like, you change the diaper. There's not even a thought. It doesn't even arise. Judgment doesn't even come up, right? That's the innocence of the child. But as we grow older, we start to create these programs and what I should be doing, what I could have done, right? This is the internal judgment that we face every single day. I could be doing better. I could be doing more. And when we start to put that pressure on ourselves, it's debilitating, right? We end up just doing nothing at all, right? So we want to learn how to become free of this internal critic. And so we just have to start being easier on ourselves, essentially. So it's like coming to the awareness that you're doing the best that you know how to do in every single moment, right? So let's use my own personal example of eating sugar, which is like one of the things I've struggled with, over the course of this healing journey, is like kind of like one of my last things that I need to become free of. And so when I'm in self-judgment and not in this connecting to this innocence of the child, if I've been like, let's say I've been like 3 weeks not eating sugar, and then all of a sudden I go to a birthday party and I eat birthday cake, what I normally want to do is just judge myself, right? And just be like, oh, why the hell did you do that? You're so stupid. You shouldn't have done that. And then I started paying attention to this internal dialogue that was going on. And so instead of using those words, because I was aware of them, I would just turn it around and just look at it like I would look at a child. It's like, would you get mad at a child if he drew on the wall because he didn't know any better? It's like, no. You just say, no, don't do that anymore. And then 2 seconds later, you're loving him the exact same way you loved him before he drew on the wall, right? So this is the way we want to look at ourselves, in that innocence of the child. Just, we're doing the best that we know how to do. We have yet to discover what is required for us to become free of, for in this case, my addiction to sugar, okay? So now that I started changing that, I started being a little easier on myself. The pressure went away to be so perfect or to like get it all right? So now as I move down this road, if I fall off my no sugar diet, I just observe it and be like, hey, no big deal. You're going to do better next time. Like, you've learned something from this experience. So let's just move on and let go of all the guilt, let go of all the judgment, and just know that I'm going to do better because I have this new knowledge because of the failure that I experienced, right? So in order for a child to learn how to walk, they need to fall down 1,000,000 times, right? Maybe not 1,000,000, a couple thousand times, let's say. They need to fall down. And do we judge the child, or is the child judging himself or herself every single time she falls down? No. She just falls down without any consciousness at all, gets back up and tries again, right? There's no internal judgment. There's no judgment from outside sources, okay? So this is the way we want to look at ourselves every single day. If you're on a diet and you slip up off of your diet, don't fall into this self-judgment of, oh, I'm so terrible, I'm the worst person on earth. And then guess what happens when we start feeling that pressure? We just completely fall off the diet, instead of just looking at it like, no big deal, little slip up, I'm going to get right back up and keep trying to walk, right? And that's the way we want to kind of look at every single situation, right? It's just through the innocence of the child, okay? So these are the two things that will help you become free of this internal judgment. One is stopping judging others, and then two is just viewing yourself, parenting yourself, viewing yourself as an innocent child that has yet to discover what he or she needs to discover in order to become free of whatever it is they want to become free of, or in order to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve, right? And this is a big thing with achievement, is we have this constant, I could be doing more, or I should be doing more, right? And that is felt as pressure, right? And when we're feeling the pressure of should or could, it again is debilitating and might end up completely shutting us down. Okay, so anytime another cue to start paying attention to when we are being our own worst critic is the word should, or even judgment of other people. When we are saying you should be doing this, essentially what we're saying is you should be doing it my way, right? And it's like, who are we to judge other people saying that our way is the best way? Because I'm sure there's a ton of flaws in the way that we're doing it, and someone that's at a higher state of consciousness than us could easily say to us that you should be doing it this way, right? So the word should or could is a great indicator of judgment of other people or internal judgment. So if you ever catch yourself saying he or she should be doing this, then that's like when you want to say, oh, I'm in judgment mode. Let me just put it into that. Use the power of the mind to stop those internal dialogues. So this example I've given a million times with, the alcoholic. And this is the one thing that drives me nuts about people that are looking from the outside and judging someone that is like an alcoholic or has some sort of addiction, right? Or let's say it's a weight issue or whatever it may be. Everyone is looking at these people saying, like, just stop drinking. Like, just stop eating so much, right? But it's just like, when you can have acceptance for where everyone's at, you can look at them from a place of they just have yet to discover what they need to discover in order to become free of this. Sure, they know that they shouldn't be eating that piece of cake if they're overweight. And sure, they know they shouldn't be drinking a beer if they have an addiction issue, right? But they have yet to discover how to become free of that. So can we judge them for that? No. It's like they're on their path. They know they shouldn't be. That's the first step, right? So it's the first step to have the awareness that they want to change, right? And so slowly everything that they need is going to start coming into their life so that they can become free of that. But we can't judge them for that because they're just on their own path. So just having acceptance for where everyone is at is another way to allow yourself to become free of the judgment of others. Just seeing everybody as innocence of the child, right? Seeing that they're all just doing the best that they know how to do, right? And this is the one thing I think a lot of people have trouble connecting to. It's like when they see someone in poverty, you walk down the street and you see someone that's homeless and you say, like, this is one of my judgments that I would use of homeless people. It's like, if you're willing to beg on the street to try and get money, it's like, why don't you just go get a job and hold a pizza sign? This is like one of the things that I would say, or because we have at my business, we have promoters on the street that essentially do what a homeless person does, which sounds terrible when I say that out loud like that. But they're on the street saying, hey, why don't you come check out Treehouse, right? Why don't you come check out this place? And that's essentially what a homeless person is doing. It's like even takes more humility to ask for money. We're just asking you to go in and have a good time. A homeless person is asking you to take money out of your own pocket and give to them. So my judgment of homeless people is like, well, if you have the energy to do that, why don't you just have the energy to get a job? But that is just me judging, saying like, you should be doing what I'm doing. You should know better. And it's like, then later, as I moved into the state of acceptance, I could see them saying, like, I could see exactly where they were, right? They've just yet to discover what they need to discover to be free of this. They're probably stuck in the state of apathy, where they feel that the world is against them and nothing ever goes their way. And these are the things that they're holding in mind, right? And the things that you hold in mind tend to manifest, right? And now I can completely see that. I can completely see where they're at in their journey. So why would I ever place my own judgment on them, saying me being at this level of abundance and acceptance, or not at this point, but the level of abundance, being like, you should just do what I do. It's like, well, no. Right? They have to discover it on their own. Now, if someone comes to me and asks me for help in coaching or messages me on Instagram or whatever, yeah, of course I'm going to offer that help, but I'm not going to offer unsolicited advice at any time, because no one ever likes being told what to do, right? It's just like, have you ever told somebody what to do and it's been received well? Never. It just never gets received well, right? Because everyone is figuring it out for themselves. So with this new knowledge, you can start to let go of all of this judgment, right? So having acceptance, just stopping the judgment, observing the judgment in yourself, right? And these are the tools that you can start using to become free of all of this judgment, because who wants to be judged? The other thing that I think is always an interesting point is that everyone is so egocentric. they're so focused on themselves that they don't really have that much time to put that much energy into you. And the example I always give of this is like, if I gave you a picture of 10 people and you're one of the people in that picture, where's the first place your focus goes to of the picture of 10? It goes right to yourself, right? And this, like, don't judge yourself for that, but it's just to show you that this is how egocentric we are. And this is the purpose of the ego, is to keep us safe, right? So naturally, we're going to try and keep ourselves safe of judgment, by saying, hey, let me take a look at how I look in this picture because I'm scared of the judgment of what other people are going to say. But guess what? No one else is looking at you in the picture, right? Everyone's looking at themselves. So when you can have that acceptance, then you can kind of like let go of a little bit more of the internal judgment, being like thinking that a big thing that stops so many people from living the life that they want to is they're so fearful of the judgment of other people. But everyone else is just looking at their own picture, right? So when you can connect to that, you can kind of like let go of that fear. You can realize that, oh, people they don't even really care about me because they're so focused on themselves. So this would be another way to let go of, I guess, the fear of judgment, is just to come to this realization that everyone's kind of struggling with the same thing that you're struggling with, right? So when you have these realizations, then you can start to become free of the fear of judgment from others, okay? And then the last thing is that I just want to leave with you guys here is that the world acts like a mirror to us. Okay, so every single time, this is called the law of projection. So every single time that we are triggered by somebody else's behavior, it is because, with 100% certainty, and it's been yet to be disproven, it is because of something that is still going on inside of us. So let me give you an example. I was running down the street the other day, and so like I'm on this big wide trail. It's probably like 8-foot trail, the Ganacho Trail here in Windsor. And this woman yells at me to move over further because of social distancing, right? And it's like, we're outside. I'm literally whizzing by her, right? And in that moment, I felt the anger well up inside of me, right? And because I'm so attuned to my emotions, I immediately just connected and be like, whoa, what's going on with this? Why am I like feeling so much anger because of this person? And then what I came to the realization was because of positionality, right? She has the position that COVID is going to come and get her. I have the position that diseases don't exist, right? So the two positions are butting heads, okay? And then in that moment, I'm like, oh, I'm holding on to my position too tightly, right? And then just with that awareness, I could let go of that positionality, which then in turn makes me more open-minded, and then I can let go of all the anger that's associated with it, right? So what she was projecting to me as I ran by her in that split second and she yelled at me was that I am still holding on to positions. Positions still exist inside of me, okay? So this allows me to do the inner work to become free of positionality. And if you're not connecting to positionality, that's fine. Connect to anger, okay? So I just saw this like experiment like you can do. It's like, name like your top 3 politicians that you hate, right? And then write out why you hate them, okay? So you write out like the reasons why you hate that politician. And then write out where in your life, so like maybe you hate them because, like, let's use Trump, for example. Why do people hate Trump? Because he's obnoxious and annoying, and he lies, he's rude, okay? And then make a list of where in your life have you been obnoxious and annoying? Where in your life have you been rude? Where in your life have you told lies? Okay? And then when you can start to see yourself in Donald Trump, which is tough, but when you can start to see yourself in Donald Trump, you can let go of that judgment of him, and then you can also get in tune to what is still going on inside of you. So if Donald Trump is angry and that makes you angry the way he lashes out or has revenge at people, then it's like, well, maybe you should look inside of yourself and say, where am I still angry at myself, right? It's like, let's use Democrats versus Republicans. Now I'm getting really political here. But Democrats cannot see why anyone would vote for Donald Trump because he's a bigot, he's a racist, he's a this, and he's this, all these things, whatever they want to say to him. So what is that projecting back to them? It's like, it is essentially the same thing. It's like, it's not being able to have an open mind. It's a lack of humility, right? So that positionality, saying like my way is the right way and you should vote Democratic or you should vote Republican, is just closing the door to resolving any issues, because we're both so locked in our own opinions and our own positionality. Okay, so anything that triggers you in the real world is just what's going on inside of you. So, and sometimes it's not as simple to discern. It's not like so easy to pick up on, because a lot of the times it's like, it's also about how we're talking to ourselves. Okay, so if somebody is angry and you don't feel like you're an angry person, then maybe to turn it a little bit more inward and then look at how you talk to your own self. And if you're angry at yourself for eating that piece of cake or for drinking a beer when you're not supposed to, if you talk to yourself like you're so stupid, you should never have done that, that is what's still going on. So maybe you're not angry in the world. Maybe you're a rather meek person that just keeps quiet, because that is a lot of times what happens, is like we just kind of go into like our own little shell and we don't say too much. But we could be holding on to internal anger or anger at ourselves. Okay, so it takes a little bit of work, but it's not like this real difficult work, right? So like you can just look at any situation that recently has triggered you. I just gave you my perfect example of the COVID thing, right? So it's like it triggered me, and I immediately started doing the internal work and just basically asking the simple question: why am I triggered here, right? What is going on inside of me that is projecting this out into the future? So then this ties into forgiveness, right? So the traditional form of forgiveness is so egocentrical. It's like, I forgive you for you wronging me, right? Well, of course people like that, right? Because it's like saying I'm right and you're wrong, and you're basically admitting to me that you were wrong and I'm right. Well, of course the ego is going to be all about that. But actual forgiveness comes from recognizing that person who wronged you was just a reflection of your own self, okay? And just like this woman that ran by me, it's like, yes, of course I forgive her, right? And I could go to her and beg for forgiveness for the feelings I felt towards her, right? But ultimately, what I should be doing is thanking her and having gratitude for her showing me what I still need to fix in my own life, in my own ego, what I still need to let go of. Okay, so that is what ultimate forgiveness is when you can turn that wrong that someone has done to you into like, oh, thank you so much for pointing out to me what I still need to change and work on in myself, right? With the understanding that we're all just doing the best that we can. We all just are doing the best that we can from the circle of what we know. And until we come to a new awareness, then we're not going to transcend that until we have all the tools in our tool belt to be able to fix that problem. Okay, so if you don't have the knowledge of how to walk, how can you judge someone for not walking, right? So look at the baby. It's like, do we judge a baby that's crawling that they should be walking? It's like, no. It's like, they're going to figure it out when they figure it out. And that's exactly the same way that's exactly the same way we want to talk to others, or we want to feel about others. I don't say to the homeless guy anymore, you should just come and get a job at Treehouse and promote. No, I say, you're going to get it when you get it, right? And that's the same way we want to talk to ourselves. It's like, I still haven't overcome my addiction to sugar, but I'm no longer talking to myself in this manner of being like, you should be doing this. It's like, no, you'll get it when you get it. It's like, you got to fall down 1,000 times before you finally figure it out. Okay, so hopefully that helped you. Hopefully it helped you move through judgment. If you want, in the comments below, if you're watching on YouTube here, you can add anything else that has helped you overcome judgment, because it's in helping others that we help ourselves. It is in giving that we receive. And this is ultimately what I want this podcast to be all about, is about, pushing this positive message. So also, talking about pushing a positive message, you can check out my company. It's called Effect Apparel. It is a company that has positive states of mind printed on shirts in both forward and reverse. So when you look in the mirror, if it's printed in reverse, you read it properly. And it's just a way of kind of taking the fight of our 70,000 subconscious thoughts to the same playing field, so that you can begin to transform your mindset. So you can begin to hold in mind what is most powerful and what's going to create the greatest change for you. So you can check out that company. It's effectapparel.com. .ca for Canadians, and effectapparel.com. It's just sweaters and crew necks, super comfortable, super affordable, and it's free shipping with anything over $30. So yeah, thanks for taking time to listen to the podcast, and we'll see you guys again next Wednesday.